All right, so I would like to introduce everyone to our presenter today. And I'm going to go ahead and just give a little bit about her background before I hand things completely over. So I'd like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Brooke Stuart. Dr. Brooke Stuart is the founder of Let Go and Grow International and a holistic doctor in private practice. She assists her patients in unlocking their own intrinsic power to heal. Over the past 12 years, Dr. Stuart has worked with thousands of people through her online platform, speaking engagements, and one-on-one in her private practice. She holds degrees in medical anthropology, psychology, and integrative medicine. And Dr. Stuart uses this as a unique combination of holistic counseling and functional medicine to personalize and tailor treatments for her patients in the Orlando, Florida area and around the world using her telemedicine platform. As a physician, she is deeply committed to her patients' personal growth and development as she uses solution-oriented methods to clear issues, create health, and assist them in realizing and actualizing their true potential. And without further ado, I will go ahead and hand off our presentation today to Dr. Brooke Stuart.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Natalie, and thank you all so much for being here. I want to make sure we have access to these slides, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure our screen is shared. Okay, perfect. You don't see the screen, do you, Natalie?
Not yet.
Okay, one moment. Keeps going in and out. Okay. 1 minute. I am going to go ahead and there we go. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Okay, now we should be able to see it. Now?
Perfect. Yes, looks great.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and for working with me as we pull up this screen. Today, I am so excited to present on beginning a meditation practice for pain management because I think so often we are taught to turn away from pain or to distract ourselves from pain. And if we're able to have tools that can actually assist us in creating space between us and pain, then maybe we can begin to turn towards it and ask ourselves how we can be with pain and what we can do to rework and shift it while also building out the rest of our ecosystem and our lives. And so today we're going to talk about meditation. We're going to talk about how it can work with the stress response, the difference between meditation and mindfulness and how that can work with pain, the difference between meditation and distraction techniques, how you can actually begin a meditation practice, different types of meditation, and the one that I recommend all of my patients to begin with on their first visit. One of the reasons why I absolutely adore meditation is because it's you being with you, and it begins to certainly teach you your power by turning towards and engaging in a process and a practice that actually helps you to connect with yourself and with the present moment, offering up that space to meditate on or to reflect on what is and isn't working and why. And so the definition of meditation can be defined as a set of techniques built to help increase awareness. I call it a practice of presence because often we hear the word meditation and we can think of, someone climbing a tree in Tibet, right? Or at the end of a yoga class when we're in Savasana, or we can think of somebody who is breathing intensely. But there are also forms of meditation like mindfulness where all we need to do is to wake up to the moment that we're in. And when we set aside time and space to actually put ourselves first, whether it's in the morning or on a lunch break, where we say, hey, look, I'm blocking off this time and space to access myself, we begin to rewire our nervous systems, leaning towards health and towards growth versus in that constant state of autopilot survival mode. And so when we are in pain, often, how can we shift that pain? if we're able to shift our nervous system, we begin to build out an ecosystem where we have more access to actually tap in and heal and observe the experience versus just feeling like we're a pinball running around, at the fate and the mercy of our genes. And so here we're able to actually begin, and as we'll see in research later on in this presentation, we're actually able to begin to rewire and to change and shift how our genes express themselves through something as simple as taking 30 seconds to 3 minutes a day, or even just waking up in the same moment that we are already in with more presence, actually tapping into ourselves and connecting to the moment that we are actually engaged in. So on meditation, one of the reasons that I love it is it allows us to be with ourselves. So often we're caught in this world of doing, distraction. And it can become almost comical when we actually begin to lessen that noise, access states of coherence within ourselves where our system is working. And it takes a moment to really pause often to access that state of stillness. Even if we don't always like what we're seeing in that moment, what if we're able to put a little bit of space between us and that, where we're still connected, where we're still observing and able to watch things reorchestrate and reorganize and coming into a state of coherence. This is what meditation can offer. And this is why I love it so much, because it's literally free medicine. If we have breath, if we have the power of our touch, if we have the definitive intention and commitment to it, as that statement, we can begin to engage in a meditation practice where we can actually begin to reflect and take that consideration of what is and isn't working and why, and thus engaging in something really interesting that new science is collecting an increasingly large database on, which is called neuroplasticity, which is that we can change. That neurogenesis is how our brain cells can regenerate, how our nervous system can rebuild. And so if we're able to kind of take that pause, we can rework and reorient into potentially a new definition of health where we're still acknowledging pain states. And I'm going to show you how to do that with meditation as we proceed, but where we're acknowledging pain states, but we're also on the other side of the equation, really choosing to open up to a space where maybe it can shift, right? Not in a delusionally positive way, right? We all have different states that we're beginning with. But if we're able to open up to maybe it can shift and maybe I can be a part of that shift and that change, and I can really learn how to self-regulate and message to myself that I'm capable of healing, that my body is capable of changing. Well, that's when we begin to take our power back. And in that, we not only open up to a light at the end of the tunnel, we open up to a light within ourselves now. And if we can begin to recognize ourselves as the source of that light, which meditation can often offer, now we are living and being and interacting and engaging in the world in a completely different way. And I think meditation can be a conduit for that modulation and that change. And I find that with a great meditation practice, and this is where we're going to, when we talk about tactics, we'll certainly talk about what works for you and what may not, right? In terms of looking at like how, even from how we can sit to the different kinds of practices that may work for you and your system. Some people may love silence. Other people may want to kind of work with more of that mindfulness, the living, learning as you go sort of state, but then take that time to meditate, maybe through a guided visualization or a body scan. So there's so many ways to do this. And one of the things that I learned when I started to meditate myself was that there's not a right or wrong way to do it. That if you're breathing and if you're engaged in this life experience, you can meditate. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things of meditation is we begin to remove things that cloud up our space, that create this contraction for something that we can open up to, which is that world within worlds, that we can heal, that meditation can be medicinal, and how can we cultivate ecosystems and spaces to evoke a relaxation response that most of us, as we're, going around in the world, don't always intentionally carve out the space to relax and to drop into a new experience of our nervous systems. I remember once I was, working for 3 years straight, hadn't taken a vacation. And on the vacation, I realized I didn't just like relax, like right when I hit the beach, right? It took me a good day and a half to drop into a space of okayness, that I am safe, that everything's okay, that my nervous system can relax and I can actually expand and breathe. And I find that if we can bring in a meditation practice into our day, we can begin to learn that new way of being, in terms of being able to drop into ourselves and potentially relax, and allowing life to begin to work for us as we receive from it, still choosing to show up for it in that way. So in terms of mindfulness, meditation, and pain. So meditation is the big, broad spectrum word, and mindfulness is a part of that. Now, the difference between meditation and mindfulness is that mindfulness can be meditation, but meditation is not subjected to mindfulness because it's a very big, broad category. And so this is where we want to know that maybe it can work so beautifully together. Maybe we have a meditation practice where we make that statement, we set an intention, and placing myself first, and I'm going to commit to that through that 3 minutes a day, right? Or whatever length of time really works for you. And I'm going to begin to shift my nervous system state into a more parasympathetic, relaxed, calm, and healing mode, where I typically operate from that sympathetic state of fight, flight, freeze, appease, all of those rhyming words, right? And I shift into this parasympathetic, calm state where I can actually begin to enter into my day very differently. And this is where, too, meditation, having a meditation practice can make it that much easier to engage in mindfulness as we navigate our day. Now, meditation and mindfulness have a ton of health benefits, and I've listed these in the slides, which you will have access to certainly, but everything from clearing distortion to helping promote multi-system resilience, presence. It helps us to rework fear, boost mood. It regulates psychological and physiological functions. It helps to decrease inflammation, and which is of course super linked to pain. And it can also help us deepen levels of sleep, help us access REM, which can help us to repair and rest, and also evoke and bring about more healing experiences, like a deep appreciation, a sense of feeling content and satisfied and happy, and also creative, because when we're able to quiet the system just enough to access more of ourselves, we can almost begin to reach in and recognize those choices that are more coherent and work more with where we're going in our own lives, building out our choices to create those pathways and that archways so that we can begin to step up with ourselves through the change. It gives us just enough time to actually choose the choice versus reflex into it. And when we're actually choosing the choices, we can begin to intentionally build bridges to the other side. So meditation versus distraction. Much like I just mentioned, meditation can be intentional, right? We can turn towards ourselves. We can turn towards the pain. We can shine the light of our awareness and our presence onto pain and actually connect with our bodies to begin to see that pain change, or at least get clear enough and ask ourselves, what is the next best step or choice for me? Now, distraction techniques are certainly fundamental in some cases when it comes to pain management. But the idea is if we know that we're exerting energy, right? And there's a fine balance between letting ourselves go about our lives and doing versus being. And they're both very important. But if we're able to be intentional about distraction on some level, maybe it ends up not being so much about distraction. It has more to do with kind of like unhooking from the fixated focus on pain and expanding out more into all of the facets of our being. Because when we are with pain, often it's a fixation, right? Because it's catching our undivided attention. We're in so much pain, I can't think of everything else. So there are two ways that we want to work with this, right? One is, this distraction technique kind of encapsulate this, where we are focused on things outside of ourselves so that the focus isn't so fixed on the pain itself. And a lot of people use meditation as a way to check out and escape. But I'm going to really promote, in a way, being open to looking at it as a way of turning toward the self, but choosing to focus on the broad spectrum of life if you choose, or letting yourself connect to pain in a way where you're not getting carried away or caught up in it. So they're both very important. But I think if we're going to effectively work with healing it, we may want to connect with it in a completely different way, where it is bridging to that other side versus just avoiding it or burying it. Now, different things that distract us or that help to avoid or bury it, this is something that we can actually explore in meditation. Why do I want to disconnect from this pain state? And obviously it's painful, right? There are a lot of reasons why I would want to avoid this pain, this pain. There's a lot of rational reasons as to why I would do that. But if I can begin to ask these questions and open up to other solutions, maybe something new can come in just through that choice of connection, presence, observation, considering what works, what doesn't, and why. And so it's really acknowledging where we are so that we can expand our awareness to see what maybe is right there, but we can't see with when we're narrowing our field of vision. So moving into how to start a meditation practice. So this is the fun stuff. I like practicalities because it brings us into experiencing our experiences versus just talking about them in a more theoretical way. So as you're starting a meditation practice, I think it's extraordinarily important to consider the reality of the situation. So what is your reality? What does your day actually look like? Are you groggy in the mornings? Do you have more energy at night? Maybe when you're starting something new, you choose a time that you can really do it, that you can really begin to show up for yourself. Put yourself first. Maybe you set a time, right? I'm only going to do this for 3 minutes because that feels approachable. That feels not so intimidating. That feels direct. And I can set a little timer, reminding myself of the meditation that I would like to bring in. And I'm considering my reality of the situation. I'm going to choose a practice that feels right, whether it's a guided visualization. And at the end of this, we'll of course provide a bunch of resources and apps that can be helpful. And I'm going to walk you through a meditation that I actually teach all of my patients as well, which is a simple 3-minute heart-based meditation practice. In terms of choosing a place, maybe you have a place in your home that's beautiful, that you feel relaxed in and expansive, and letting yourself be really flexible and remembering why you started when you feel like you want to check out and skip a day. Now, also, it's that part of being flexible, right? Forgiving yourself quickly so that you can just continue the conversation if this is something that you want to invest in terms of your time and your space. I think that it's important to think of these things because I'll give you a quick example. I have a lot of my patients are complete overachievers. And so when they say they want to start a workout, they're talking about this, personal trainer or paddleboarding for hours a day. And they're thinking of these big things that they would like to do versus maybe the reality of the situation is that they, in order to run a marathon, maybe they just need to get outside and walk for 10 minutes, right? And let nothing stop you in what feels so approachable to where you're beginning that conversation. And this ends up being this conversation with yourself. So this is where considering reality, setting a time, choosing a practice, let yourself make it fun, right? If it's just another thing on the to-do list that you have to get done, it will become more distraction. It will become less about you and more about the doing, where meditation is all about learning how to be. How do you want to be in this world? How can you access more of yourself? How can you identify your gifts and your talents and let those come up just because they're there and knowing that you don't have to search for them. And this is where sometimes less is more. So in terms of finding a comfortable position, like I said, there's not a right or wrong way to meditate. You can sit, you can stand, you can lie down, you can walk. A lot of people will use walking meditations, and this is a great way to keep your focus. So if you focus better when you're moving, this could be really helpful. If you find that you can tune in more efficiently as you're lying down, or you find that the only time that you would like to meditate is just as you're waking up into a new day, or just as you're falling asleep at night, intending to process the day and kind of review it through that sense of reflection and that breathing through your experiences, then that can be very powerful as well. Some people love to sit. Some people love to stand. Honestly, it's up to you. And I think as you're beginning, it's important to start with what feels most comfortable. So there are many types of meditation. Some people use a mantra to stay focused. If you have a really busy mind, sometimes there are people that will choose little I am statements. Now, I am statements where you can embody certain messages. So maybe you breathe in and you say, I am at peace. That's a very famous one. Some people use words like Om. You've probably heard that if you've ever gone to a yoga class. Some people use a guided visualization where they're hearing someone's voice and it's guiding them into an experience. Maybe it's a body scan where your tension is, releasing throughout your head and your neck, going all the way down to grounding into your feet. Silent meditations can be really powerful where you can just kind of sit back and observe that busy mind or the experiences that you're experiencing somatically in your body. Mindfulness meditation is more of that active presence meditation as you're washing the dishes. Can you feel the hot water? What does the plate feel like? What does it look like outside the window? Is it light? Is it bright? Is it raining? Just really noticing and observing the world right around you. Movement meditation could be that you take a walk and you place yourself in at home and you are feeling really free as every step you take hits the actual earth. Breath work is a really beautiful part of meditation. And I think at first, sometimes we just want to begin. So it's that natural breathing in and out of your nose. Maybe you breathe in through your mouth, out through your nose, whatever feels most comfortable to you. However, you can get that deep cleansing breath in. That is what I think is the best place to start. And there's also something that a lot of people love called box breathing. And this is where you go in through your nose for 4 counts, and then you hold it for 4 counts. It's like a little box. It's like in through your nose for 4 counts, you hold it for 4 counts, then you breathe it out for 4 counts, then you hold it for 4 counts. And you'll see all of these little infographics on Instagram often where it just has this little box, 4 seconds here, 4 seconds here, 4 seconds there, and there. So it's just a good way to begin to create this circuitry inside of your system. When it comes to body connection, for example, let's say I have neck or jawline tension, right? I can actually use my finger and I can press on that space of tension, acknowledging it, turning towards the pain, and actually breathe in and exhale through it and feel this point lift and drop with my breath. And what's amazing about this technique, and I've been sharing this practice with my patients for a little while now, is that you can actually begin to feel the tension in your body disperse. Like your breathing is actually breaking up that stagnation, breaking up that inflammation. And you begin to build this confidence in yourself because you begin to recognize when I just am with my experiences, they begin to change through my presence without me doing so much, but maybe me just choosing to be with that experience in and of itself. So it's very, very powerful. Everyday awareness is a part of that mindful meditation aspects of connection, presence, observation, engaging in the beauty that is your life, setting intentions and then committing to them, right? Like I may have an intention of building self-confidence and maybe I use a mantra meditation, right? To commit to that practice. So in that 3 minutes, I am meditating on confidence. Some people meditate for something, right? Like if I'm meditating to release my pain, that's a little bit more of that active, that yang-based state of doing versus that yin-based state of being. And we can use both because they're both important parts of the experience itself. So benefits of meditation, I kind of joke around, but a lot of times you'll see these big lists on Instagram of, all the benefits of coconut oil or turmeric, right? And the list goes on and on and on. But meditation has been studied to have profound health benefits, primarily because of the way it works with the nervous system, how we're able to train our systems to relax and acclimate towards that rest and relaxation. And so in that, we're able to improve cognitive abilities, improve our memory because blood is flowing through our brain into all of the limbs of our bodies because we're not caught up in that contracted state of survival where our systems are totally focused on just keeping our pulse alive. We can actually begin begin to access more of our power. We can drop into sleep completely differently. We can begin to experience better senses of willpower and concentration. We can gain a new perspective by having that space between us and our stressful situations. As you can see, meditation allows us to get more objective versus subjective and in the weeds. So we can increase self-awareness. We can focus on being present with our experiences. In terms of reducing negative emotions, it's almost like we don't even just reduce them. We shift out of them. We rework them. We find a new perspective that may fit us, or we find a next step that feels right to us. Maybe a conversation clears the way. And because I took just enough time and space to break the ice, interrupt natural patterns of reflex and distress, I'm able to access more of that creativity within myself that's always there through taking that time to reflect and ask, what would I like to do here? How can I do something here? And in what way would I take pride in my next best step for me? What is the next best step for me? What do I want to do here? These are all questions that we have and are able to begin to filter through ourselves to make our next moves moving forward. In terms of, it can also help increase patience and tolerance, of course, because you have more of that space and you can really think things through. And I think that there's actually something extraordinarily profound about being able to think things through. If we think about it, right, we're just usually just going, gone, right? Versus taking our time to be with an experience or maybe a subject matter that we really enjoy, that's just a hobby or whatever it is, but maybe we want to think something through, give ourselves the time and space to acclimate and drop in and modulate our systems in that way. So meditation gives us this opportunity to self-regulate. I wanted to put a couple of slides in on stress, and you can certainly refer to the an older presentation I did with this organization. And I'm not going to bore you with this, but I just wanted to mention how stress can come from a myriad of angles. And a lot of times when we begin to meditate, we begin to access new ideas of how to relax our nervous systems as well. And in this, we can begin to really rework our perspective so that we are able to cultivate a sense of mindfulness naturally. Mindfulness is chosen and meditation is chosen intentionally, and then we can access more of ourselves naturally if we have a landscape that's conducive to health and growth. And so as we're living our everyday lives, I find that's very important to consider mindset, our perspective, what we would like to do with the thought or feeling, to see these parts of our lives, these mind, body, heart, life, as a part of a family sitting at the table where we're able to hear the unique and individual voices. And then we're able to then decide objectively, what is my next move? What would I like to do here? And so by reducing the stress response and creating more resilience, we have more access to ourselves, and meditation and taking the time to reflect will often help us to identify these spaces of imbalance that we can work on and bridge the gap with. So I just wanted to I'm going to run through these really quickly because they're not as relevant to this, but I think they can be helpful for you to just begin to refer back to. So in terms of shifting the stress response, I find that meditation can be big in terms of raising the awareness, beginning to message in things to ourselves through like that mantra meditation, I am important, I am capable. It allows us to really commit to the intentions that we're making, and we can begin to notice if we're feeling expansive or contracted, right? And I'm going to define that really quick because I've been using that terminology and I want to make sure it's very clear. So when you're feeling expansive, right, this may mean you're in a state of natural coherence, you're feeling peace, you're feeling freer, right? Maybe your social worlds are expanding or you're feeling more like yourself in a certain experience. Are you expanding and feeling free and more like yourself, being the you? Or do you feel contracted and distressed and something is off and there's a mismatch? And how do identify what's going on here? Now, it's not to avoid contracted states. It's primarily to acknowledge them, to see how we can create it into a state of expansion. And sometimes that is letting go of the actual, the cause of the contracted state. Other times it's reworking our perspective and giving ourselves enough time and space to see how we want to be in that experience. And so with meditation, we have the opportunity to begin to sort through these things. So there's a really brilliant Harvard study that talks about perception as medicine and basically how it can literally, quite literally, add years onto our lives if we're looking at all of life as potentially for us versus happening to us. And meditation gives us this opportunity to actually shift that, to actually take in, oh, I think this is happening to me. And it certainly feels like that. I'm not going to bypass that state of mind, but how can I shift into the more for me experience so that I can feel freer and more expansive? So diet plays a big role in the relaxation response. It also can help us reach deeper levels when we're entering meditation. A lot of noise comes from what I call an evolutionary mismatch. In the research, it uses that terminology a lot, evolutionary mismatch. So how are we incoherent with our biology? How are we incoherent with our psychology? How can we begin to send ourselves a signal of safety through all the choices that we're making, that we also very, very much have the opportunity to do in meditation too, where we can begin to send ourselves a new signal that I am safe, I am okay, let me drop into myself. And how can we match our everyday choices like diet, like lifestyle, like sleep and relaxation, social circles, community? How can I begin to match it so that it actually is creating this ecosystem of expansion where we really have the opportunity to consider that in meditation practice? So I mentioned these things, and I'm glad that you have them if you ever want to look back on that. So this is the practice that I teach each and every one of my patients. It's called the heart-based practice. It's a simple 3-minute meditation, and it's so simple. It's making that statement to yourself. It's putting yourself first, and it's saying, hey, for 3 minutes, I'm going to remember that I myself and my beautiful beating heart is actually a resource. So let me take my time to actually place both hands on my heart, and actually feel free to do it with me. I know I can't see you guys right now, but I feel connected, and I think it can be really helpful to just experience this, like placing both hands over your heartbeat and just feel your breath going in through your heart, anchoring down into your spine, and just breathing it out. So it's in and out. Just like really letting it go, paying attention to tuning into your heartbeat and actually feeling your heartbeat, taking just enough time and space to quiet your system, to actually tune into yourself, to actually tune into your heartbeat, breathing in and out, these deep cleansing breaths that can literally, quite literally shift the stress response to allow you to go into new moments slightly shifted. And there is a ton of research on the power of plugging into yourself, of connecting to your heartbeat, to your breath. This is quite literally, it's medicine. And you can do this at any moment in time. And here you can begin to envision health. You can begin to meditate on health. And asking to see like the spaces that aren't in alignment with this journey, with health, the conversation of health. And here you can begin to really visualize, what does it look like for me to be healthy? Like, am I drinking clean water and nutrients? Can I visualize what it feels like for my hair to be growing with strength, for my body to be regenerating, to have beautiful energy and deeply rest in social circles that I not only can tolerate, but are actually enjoyable and desirable to be part of? So thinking about more than just getting out of pain, but also into vitality and watching the light of that vitality actually begin to shift pain-based states. Now with the heart-based practice, going back for a moment with it, the screen, there we go. Okay. So with the heart-based practice, with this specifically, you can do so many things here. You can do it the way that you want. You can make it your own. You can say a prayer here. The idea is just to plug both hands into your heart, reach in to reconnect, reset, and remember that who you are, where you are, what you truly are, and move forward from that space, really reminded into that next 3.01 second, to where we can actually begin to engage that new moment, that next moment. So going on. Okay. So of course, our objective here is to provide tools for you to begin to self-regulate and create this beautifully intelligent multi-system resilience, to have these fundamentals in place so that you can access health. Here are some resources that we found really helpful as you begin this journey. So Calm, Headspace, Insight Timer, Unplug, Simple Habit, 10% Happier. There are different devices that can actually evoke meditation. I love this thing called the Fisher-Wallace stimulator. It's actually great for pain as well, but it basically helps to modulate pain receptors, and it also helps to access alpha waves and create like it's almost like a feeling of meditation in a gadget. So I think that can be a really helpful tool that a lot of people, a lot of my patients that experience pain benefit from, but it also brings in an experience of what it's like to feel and be in a meditative state. HeartMath Institute is where we draw a lot of the research from for the heart-based practice itself. So that simple placing your hands on your heart, cultivating spaces of gratitude and abundance, so you have more resourceful energy that can spill throughout the rest of your life. And continuing, I noticed that for some reason, my computer's a little slow and not going through every single slide. So we missed a couple, but I do know what they are. And so I'll kind of review that really quick as we wrap up. So meditation can be fun. One of the slides that we skipped, it was a less is more slide. So less is more, as in like sometimes the simpler the better. Sometimes when we begin to remove all that we don't want to do, we can actually begin to enjoy what it is that we're up to, what it is that we can do, how we want to be in the world. And meditation is often a place to let go, as well as to focus on creation and what we'd like to create and take hold in our lives. There's not a right or wrong way to meditate. So I'm really interested in creating a non-judgmental observational environment where we can just share techniques that work for you and for I, and really knowing that at the beginning of a process like this, sometimes it feels like it's a fake it till we make it kind of thing, but I actually don't believe in that, because I think it's a rite of passage. A lot of the people I work with have this sense of imposter syndrome at first, but if we just recognize that the beginning is just the beginning, and it's just about the beginning, and that the journey and the destination are really one and the same, it's almost like we can begin to tap into the process without judgment even more, because we know that a beginning of a growth-oriented process can be uncomfortable. But how can I walk with myself through the beginning and step up each case of the stair, being there for myself and saying it's okay. You know, you don't have to like everything you try. You may not like every meditation that you engage in, or maybe you recognize I like this, but not this, and I like this and not that. And so just letting yourself be with it and enjoy it and drop in, and letting yourself have those natural preferences, really acknowledging where you expand and where you don't, what feels like home to you. So this is all about, you know, when you don't know which way to go, beginning to go within it, ask yourself and allow that filtration to come through. What do I want? What feels right to me? What's realistic in terms of my present moment reality? So really starting where you are with what you have and moving forward from that place, because anytime you begin something, you make a statement of change. It's just a matter of time before everything else starts to unravel. In my practice, we start with the heart-based practice, because I know that will give people just enough energy to maybe make those next changes. So if you're struggling with pain, maybe this is just enough to tip you over to the edge, where you find maybe a new medication or a new supplement, or a practitioner you have an idea of asking a new question. And so these are all the things that are available to you when you begin to intentionally show up for your life. I'll mention this really quickly. I used to go to a yoga class, and I've made videos on this and whatnot, but I used to say, I just drive my body to the yoga class, right? I just drive my body there, because it was a hard choice for me to make first. And this was part of my initial beginning process. But then as I matured and started to do this more and more and more, I thought to myself, and then out loud, how could I do this in a way that I was proud? Like, how could I actually do this in a way where I was present and aware? And that meant not just driving my body to yoga class and showing up and enjoying it. What if I was able to enjoy the drive, right? And this is where the meditation and the mindfulness comes in. What if I was able to open up the music and roll down the windows and actually enjoy my experience of getting to where I was going, recognizing that the journey and the destination are all one and the same. And so in this, I think we have the opportunity through meditation and through mindfulness to really wake up to what we already have, wake up to who we truly already are, wake up to everything that's inside of us, all the resources resources that are continuously available. And so this is where, when we talk about the heart-based practice, it's about so much more than just placing your hands on your heart and feeling your heartbeat and watching as, blood is distributed through every cell of the body. It's more about reconnecting, resetting, and remembering who, what, and where you truly are, and that you have that power to wake up with presence to your life. And awareness not only dawns, it then deepens. And that is how things work. It's like a spiral staircase of growth as we move forward. So here we can begin to walk with ourselves every step of the way, empowering ourselves as we mobilize towards health and begin to not just avoid pain or bury it, but rework it and own it and decide, like, I can actually choose this. I can actually open up and plug into the conversation with more of a solution-oriented pathway. So that is it for the presentation today. I thank you guys so much for staying with me through this. I'm happy to answer any and all questions at the end of this. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Natalie or us directly, and we're happy to be of assistance in any way that we can.
All right, and thank you so much, Dr. Stewart. That was a really great and impassioned presentation that you just gave to all of us here today. So what I would like to do is I'm going to go ahead and just move back into my little set of slides here. Whoop, going ahead too much. Okay, so as a reminder, if you're not as familiar with Zoom, I have a couple of questions that have come in already and a couple of comments, but please use either the chat box or the Q&A feature that's found in your toolbar if you would like to ask a question or to submit something. And if you would really like to be able to speak to ask your question, just let me know when you're submitting it, and then I can toggle through and unmute you. Otherwise, you will be muted. We'll just be answering the question aloud for you. And again, if you have something that you need from us, feel free to reach out to me. I will be emailing everyone again with that post survey reminder, as well as the recording and the slides and any other resources that were shared today. So don't worry. You can still contact me and I can pass anything along to Dr. Stewart in the future. So for our Q&A, Chuck wanted to know, could you address the relationship between meditation and its effect on the vagus nerve?
Absolutely. So I think one of the beautiful things about meditation, and there's so many ways to activate the vagus nerve, through acupuncture, through cold showers, through gargling. There's so many interesting ways to activate the vagus nerve. But I find that there's something about our attention, and maybe that means actually, thank you guys for being here. I see all the comments coming in. But there's something even about tapping at times to where we can acknowledge the different parts of ourselves and how they work. And by connecting to it, it actually begins to bring awareness and a concentration to those certain areas that help them to begin to rewire. And so even just through the light of your attention and your focus on certain areas of your body, it promotes that connection. And specifically with meditation, it allows us to relax just enough to begin to take command over our nervous system. And the vagus nerve is certainly plays a huge role in kind of like the reconstruction or the reworking of our nervous system. And so if we're able to pay attention to that pathway and train ourselves to relax, it has not only an impact on the vagus nerve, but also every area of our entire body, depending on where we're placing our attention, but also in conjunction with paying attention at all.
Thank you for that. And then we had an earlier on comment just about closed eye versus open eye meditation. And I don't know if you want to just comment any further on that. I think you can really do both depending on your environment, your situation, your comfort level. Some people don't like to close the eyes, but anything that you can add to any benefit to one or the other.
Wow, that's a seriously great question. I would say that it's all about what you're feeling in that moment. There's a practice that I learned that I really love where you place your hands over your eyes, you close your eyes, and then you place your hands over them, and it indicates safety and peace. And it was actually, there's a book called, I think, the 12 Healing Stages by Donnie Epstein. He works with Tony Robbins. He's a chiropractor that teaches certain somatic meditation-ish exercise techniques. And that is from his work of this indicating safety and peace and that okayness. And so if you're finding that your mind is running away like a train, closing your eyes to access that internal stillness, maybe what your desire, like what it is that you'd like to have. But other times, I think sometimes connecting with the real world and noticing its beauty and observing what it is that you are engaged in can be beneficial as well. So it's really about preference and personalizing it and doing what works best for you.
Thank you. Yeah, and then for those who couldn't see Dr. Stewart, she was just pointing out, so not only can you just simply close your eyes using your eyelids, but just covering them a little bit extra with your hands, or if you're someone who likes to use, a light towel or an eye mask or something like that, if you need some extra help, if you feel like you're going to peek or something and you maybe want to keep your eyes closed, those are some extra things that you can do there. And something else I wanted to ask just on behalf of everyone, I feel like this is helpful for, meditation or yoga practice. Some people tell me, well, I can't do that. It's boring. I can't sit there. I can't shut my mind off. So, instead of maybe just telling them to, okay, well, come back to your thoughts. Are there any actual tools? And maybe you recommend journaling? Do you recommend using an object maybe if someone just needs to focus their attention a little bit more to quiet the mind?
That is such a great question. So I 100%, and this is that personalization aspect. That's one of the reasons I actually love the heart-based practice of tuning into your own heartbeat. It gives you almost like a natural metronome of being able to focus in on something. And this is where sometimes people benefit with saying an affirmation verbally. So I am at peace, or I choose to return to the present moment, or whatever it is that you're specifically working on. Find affirmations can vocally be helpful because they create like a sound that you can hone in and focus on. Other people may find that their mind quiets when they're guided. So if somebody's voice is there walking them through every step of the way, every part of their body, or guiding them into a lot of meditations will use these beautiful ocean scenes, or in the middle of a beautiful forest, your hand is on the tree and you can kind of begin to experience the world that they're building out for you. So I would say thinking about a physiological metric like your breath, your heartbeat, or if you're focused, if you're more of like an affirmation person, saying something out loud can be helpful. I do find that journaling is an incredible form of meditation because it allows you to review. The idea with that, I think, is to certainly, know that it's about having that space and creating a solution orientation so you don't feel necessarily stuck in a certain thought, because that can often create even more noise. But that's just a part of getting to know yourself of, ooh, like what does create that stillness? Because I think just beyond a sense of boredom and disinterest and that disengagement, just beyond it is our choice to engage, our choice to find that stillness, and our choice to activate the awareness that then makes boredom null and void, because there's so much creativity that is available at all times.
Thank you. Would you say that you find tracking to be of benefit when you're first starting? So should somebody maybe set up a planner or just have a calendar to help them? Is there something that really helps someone to kind of see, okay, I've done it this many days this week, or anything like that? Is there any benefit to that?
I absolutely love that you just mentioned that. I think it's huge. Actually, I have a little book that you guys will be receiving here, Meditation Made Easy. And that's one of the top tips that they have, is to write it down in the calendar, check off the box that you actually got it done that day. And I think that is a great idea. And how I see it is it's kind of like a building of, it's like an investment. It's like tokens in the confidence bank. Like how many choices can you make that you take pride in, that build up that self-trust and that self-confidence and that discipline to where we're objectively bypassing, I don't feel like it, for the through line experience of why we started our commitment to going deeper within ourselves. And by keeping ourselves accountable in that written way, it's very helpful. I personally will often set a timer on my phone. I have some patients who will set timers 4 times a day for the heart-based practice, just as a simple reminder for them to check in when they're wanting to check out. And so they have those pivotal points to keep them on track throughout the day.
Perfect. And I think that's a great idea. I think just as we do anything else, so knowing, okay, I eat breakfast at 8 a.m. or I need to take this pill at 5 p.m., just adding in meditation is another one of those things that you can incorporate into your daily habit you could use a time of day perhaps as that marker. We're able to do it with other things, so why not with meditation as well? I think that that's probably beneficial. And Chuck was just commenting, practice makes perfect, and he says practice makes permanent. So of course, we definitely would agree with that. Habit building starts with starting the habit. So we get into our bad habits, but we can also get into our good habits just in the same way and repeating them over and over again. So meditation can be one of those things.
Absolutely. I think one of the best times to do it as well is definitely considering a morning practice to like set the tone for your day, even if it's just for 10 seconds, quite literally. It's just like, boom, break it up, like acknowledge yourself for just a moment. And like really visualizing that plugging into yourself, because what you'll find as you begin the process, it's like learning a new sport or a new language. At first you have to like kind of like remember to do it and like focus and have more reminders available and around, and then you get into the flow of it and it becomes more and more and increasingly yours. So that's like any process, but engaging in that skill of learning something new is really powerful too.
Wonderful. And I don't see any additional questions. I just want to remind those who hung out with us throughout the Q&A before we close out with Dr. Stuart that we do have an April webinar on myofascial release for pain management. So this is a massage type technique. It's not only something that you can get from a PT, OT, a lot of them will offer it in addition to licensed massage therapists. And there's also self myofascial release that we'll go over. If you're able to join us, we'll email out about these as well, but just keep an eye out for April event. And then we have some coming up in May and June as well. But without kind of keeping you guys on the line any longer, I just want to thank Dr. Brooke Stuart for her time today. And I hope that everyone found it beneficial to be here. We will share out the materials after the conclusion of our webinar. So thank you all, and thank you, Dr. Stuart.
Thank you guys so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Natalie.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.